Well, good day, viewers. Today we have a 99 Cadillac Eldorado. It's in pretty clean shape, but it's here for a couple of problems. One problem is the heater controls. There's no fan speed. Fan doesn't work on high, auto, low. And the other problem is the service engine soon message. So we're going to scan it and see if there's any codes in the HVAC and the engine controls. And I don't think the two problems are related. I doubt it, but let's get started. So I ordered the vehicle history because I've worked on this thing before, but not recently. Didn't get the mileage, but I'll get it later. It doesn't support a network scan, so I'll do them individually. Fuel system too lean, bank 1 and 2, keep alive, memory error, reset. Probably the battery's been disconnected or something, but too lean on bank 1 and 2. Let's look at freeze frame data for the too lean condition. See just how lean it was, in fact. Might have a restricted fuel filter or something. Boy, that's a lot of freeze frame data. Short-term fuel trim is 166 and long-term fuel trim is 176, 176. Now that's the old way of GM's integrator and block learn numbers. 128 is normal, so here's the percentage, 30 and 38%. 30 and 38%, so it was definitely adding fuel for some reason. Alright, let's look at the HVAC system. That's a secondary issue. Body control, heating and air conditioning. Display codes. Current codes. No current codes. About in history. No history codes. So let's look at data and see if it's commanding the outputs. Doesn't stay in status of the fan. Well, maybe it's in a different data list. You would think the fan would be an output. Engine speed, commanded blower is 31%. Rear blower, didn't think it had a rear blower. I'm going to try changing the fan speed. That's definitely working. So I think it's either just a failed blower motor or the blower motor controller, because I think this is transistors. So we're going to have a look at the wiring diagram. So here's a look at the OE diagram. First and foremost, we're going to check this 50 amp fuse. Wow, that's a big fuse feeding the blower motor. It looks like the blower motor contains a speed control assembly. I like that because at least you get both at the same time. And we got to qualify the power wire and the ground wire at the blower motor, and looks like this is duty cycled by the HVAC programmer. So let's get access to the blower motor. So unlike most cars, the blower motor lives in the center of the dash under the hood. There it is there. That's the blower motor. And connecting across the red and black wires lights a 4 amp headlight, so I'm sure that the power supply is good. I don't know what it does with this control wire, if it duty cycles the ground or duty cycles power. I suppose we can put a graphing multimeter on it and see if we got data, but I'm pretty sure we're just looking at a failed blower motor. So that's the voltage on that control wire, which is the gray wire in the middle. I've got it back pinned and plugged in. I tried it with it unplugged and there was no voltage on it. So that's obviously coming from the blower motor. And I would suspect that it duty cycles it or pulls it to low to control the transistor in there. But it doesn't change when I turn the heater fan up and down, and it doesn't change when I command it on and off with the scan tool. So I'm pretty sure this thing's going to need a blower motor, but I'm not 100% certain of that. So here's a bidirectional control of the blower motor. So if I command it to 100%, it should run full blast and then off. Now I watch that voltage on the voltmeter, it doesn't change. So I'm going to do a little research. So I found some case histories on Identifix that suggest that if you ground this center pin here, and I'm grounding with a test light, the blower motor should run on high. And I'm grounding it and it's not doing a thing. So I've ordered a blower motor for it. We're going to confirm that that's the problem by plugging in the new motor. So I remember from the old days, some of these systems would not run the blower fan unless the car was running. So I started the vehicle and there it is on low, auto, and high. So there is a duty cycled signal there. Obviously you can see it on the... I'm going to graph the duty cycle, see if it changes. Now the customer did install another used blower motor, but who knows if it's any good. So there it's graphing the duty cycle. That is low. That is auto. And it's ramping up. And then of course high, I think it went all the way to high, 69%. There's back to auto, and then back to low. So it does vary the duty cycle on it. So we got a blower motor coming and a fuel filter coming. So we're back working on this 99 Cadillac Eldorado. I ordered a heater blower motor. I tried to get OE, but it's impossible. It's discontinued. I mean, it is a 99. So got this cooling depot one. Hopefully it's going to work. I'm going to plug it into the connector here and set it on top of the engine bay here and see if it runs. Now, normally you wouldn't run the heater blower without it being in the blower housing because it cools the blower resistor, but the blower resistor per se is built into this thing. It's electronic, so it's transistorized, and we're only going to run it for a few seconds. Now, I also learned working on this thing last time that it actually has to be running for the blower fan to run. It didn't run with just the key in the on position, unlike most. Well, it obviously works, so we're going to install it now. So there are 4 mounting screws that hold the blower resistor or the blower motor into the housing. 3 of them are accessible. One is down there, I think. I think we might have to take the coil pack out of the way to get it out of there. It's fairly snug, but it only has to come out about 4 inches to clear. Might take this reinforcing bar out of the way here too. There's just 4 bolts. Or 4 nuts. Well, this is fun. So I had to remove the coil pack. I took the struts off here, and this strut is broken. This strut is worn out. And I ratchet strapped the engine forward about 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 inch. But I had to take the coil pack off so I could take this harness out of the way, and hopefully that's going to give me enough room once I get this harness out of the way. So what's wrong with this picture? Different squirrel cage, This one's wider. And shorter. I can't get it in there because it's got to go in like this and then turn, and there's not enough wiggle room on the squirrel cage because it's a 1/4 inch wider. So this one's just a shade over 5 1/4. This one's 5 5/8. And the opening in there is just barely 5 and let's could measure it. So if it was straight on, it would fit. It's 5 3/4. But because it's got to go in at an angle, because it can't clear this stupid valve cover, and I'm not taking the engine apart to put I've already taken the coil pack and the vent solenoid and the wiring harness, disconnected a bunch of connectors, pulled the plug wires out, just to get a heater blower out of there, for crying out loud. I'm going to see if there's anything else available. So I got the aftermarket one in there. I had to use a die grinder to grind the hole a little oval so it would allow it to go in like this. And that bench tested and worked, so it should work. It's back together. I used the ratchet strap to pull the engine forward about 3/4 of an inch. That's as far as it would move. So let's see if it works. Here comes the blower motor. Well, it works. Not sure if it's got as much airflow because that squirrel cage, well, it's bigger but it's shorter. So maybe the extra diameter will offset the short, the fact that it's a 1/2 inch shallower. But it seems to be blowing okay. Well, now we're waiting for a fuel filter. Believe it or not, Wix doesn't make a fuel filter for this car anymore.